Welcome to Step Out Sis, the podcast where we grow, heal, and walk confidently in God's calling. I am your host, Sharon. On Friday, I will turn 56 years old. And lately, I have found myself doing a lot of reflecting. Not because I'm worried about getting older, but because I am amazed at how much God can do in 1 year. The lessons, the stretching, the healing, the obedience. When I look back, I realize this birthday isn't just another birthday. It feels like a full circle moment. Earlier this year, I was helping my daughter move into her new home. Before I left, she handed me my Mother's Day gift. It was a beautiful mug, and on the front it read, God's work in progress. I smiled, I thanked her, and I brought it home. But over the weeks that followed, I found myself looking at the mug more than I ever expected. Those 4 words stayed with me. I realized they weren't just words on a coffee mug. They described my life. Then something else came back to my mind. About this time last year, God spoke something to my heart that completely changed the direction of my life. He simply said, "Stop living your life on the sidelines." I knew exactly what he meant. For too long, I had been sitting on dreams, gifts, and ideas that God had placed inside of me. Not because I didn't love him, not because I doubted him. I was just comfortable and maybe a little afraid. I didn't know what obedience would look like. I just knew I couldn't stay where I was. So I took one step. That one step became Step Out Sis. When I launched this podcast in January, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who would listen. I didn't know if anyone would be encouraged. I didn't know where God would take it. I just knew he had asked me to step out. And here I am today, 7 months later, standing in awe of the fruit of my obedience. Not because everything has been perfect, not because I figured everything out, but because I have seen what God can do when you simply say yes. As I sat with all of this, I kept coming back to those words, God's work in progress. Then I thought about our lives. Our lives are a lot like a good book. God is the author. Every chapter has a purpose. Some chapters are filled with joy. Some chapters are marked by disappointment. Some chapters stretch us. Some chapters heal us. Some chapters change us forever. And if we're honest, there are some chapters we'd rather skip. But I've learned something. You can't judge the whole story by one chapter. One painful chapter doesn't mean the story is over. One mistake doesn't define the ending. One season of waiting doesn't mean God has forgotten you. Because as long as the author is still writing, there are more chapters to come. That's why Philippians 1:6 means so much to me today. Being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. God doesn't abandon what he begins. He finishes what he starts. And when I look back over this last year, I realized he wasn't just building a podcast, he was building me. Every episode, every lesson, every act of obedience, every moment of uncertainty, God was doing a work in me, and He's still doing it. And as I celebrate my 56th birthday, I'm grateful. Not because I've arrived, but because I can finally look back and see God's fingerprints all over this chapter of my life. Sis, maybe you're listening today, wondering if it's too late. Maybe you feel like you've missed your opportunity. Maybe you think your best chapters are behind you. Can I encourage you? As long as God wakes you up each morning, there is still purpose for your life. Your story isn't over. God is still writing. And maybe that's what birthdays are really about. Not counting how many years we've lived, but celebrating the faithfulness of the author who has walked with us through every chapter. That mug sits in my office now as a daily reminder. I'm still God's work in progress. There is still growing to do. There is still healing to receive. There is still purpose to fulfill. There are still chapters left to write. And I am trusting God that the remaining chapters of my life will be beautiful, blessed, and filled with purpose because the author is still writing. Sis, if this episode encouraged you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might need this reminder. Be sure to follow the podcast, and if you haven't already, leave a rating or a review. It really does help other women find Step Out Sis. And before you go, visit stepoutssis.com and join the Inner Circle email list so you'll never miss a new episode, encouragement, or what's coming next. And with that, I will see you next week right here on Step Out Sis.